Hey guys, it's Melissa here from melissaoatman.com. Welcome to Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness, a daily podcast devoted to spirituality and self-help. If you're new, I want to welcome you. If you're returning, welcome back. So today we have a very special guest with us. We have with us Miss Christiane Michelberger, who's here from Germany, and she is going to be talking to us today about the self, really, and how to, I don't know, discover or undiscover who we truly are. So, welcome today.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so excited to be here. It's wonderful.
So, how about if you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and really what it is that you do?
Yes, I'm from Germany, living in Hamburg. That's where I'm sitting right now as well. Actually, I don't always live in Hamburg. Half of the year I live in a travel trailer. And we just returned because it was so hot. We couldn't stand it any longer. And so I've been traveling the world quite a bit on my spiritual quest. And now I live again in the town where I was born, which is quite amazing to me. And I found my path very early. I'm a physician. And in my internship, so in my first year working in the hospital, still not being a full doctor, I was on night shift in the surgery. You have to go through the psychosurgery, internal medicine. And somebody was announced who had had a severe accident. They said was a motorcyclist, and he was brought in, and when he arrived, we had already all gathered in the room, but he had died. We couldn't do anything for him. And so we had to look for his identity somewhere in his driving license or what. And we searched his many motor driver pockets, and I found his identity card, and I looked on it, and it said the year he was born, and it was the same year I was born. He was very young. I was 25 then. And it was such a shock for me. And in that moment, I realized, gosh, I'm going to die. And this is not an always existing possibility, as we all know. No, it's an upcoming reality. And it really hit me. And the first thought I had was then, and I don't even know who I am. And that started the whole journey. Now, I wasn't into spirituality at that time. I was just, coming out of university and having a nice life. And so I didn't know what to do at all. So I told my husband, and he said, okay, so now what are you going to do? And I said, I have no idea. Maybe I should meditate. I had heard that word somewhere. 2 weeks later, I came from another night shift, and he said, hey, there is an introductory meditation course announced in the newspaper. That was the time before the internet. And so I went there, and that was in 76. And since then, I never stopped. And then my friend Death visited me again. So I had, been with a lot of teachers. I had done Zen Buddhism for decades. Then I went to a very early tradition, Theravada, and studied the scriptures there, which supposedly are pretty close to the original teachings of the Buddha. And I felt quite all right and good. And then one day I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I freaked out, total freak out. I didn't know myself. By then, I had become a psychoanalyst. I knew all the tricks, how to calm yourself, but nothing worked, nothing. And in Buddhism, they have this phrase, it's not your body. If you can't control it, it's not yours. Yes, I couldn't control my thoughts. They were just racing. And my feelings, of course, neither. And my body, no way, I didn't tell it to develop cancer. But that didn't help at all. It's all nice to think about that, but in that situation, it just did not calm me. And I thought, this journey has brought me nowhere, literally nowhere. I might have felt nice and easygoing as long as things were smooth. But now it was like, this has to end. I want to see that there is no self. This is the core teaching of the Buddha. And I thought, but how am I going to do that? I have exhausted all means I thought I knew. And so I just didn't know what to do. But anyway, I had to heal first. That was still in the hospital, all these thoughts. And so I didn't know what to do. And then a few weeks later on a Facebook feed, my Facebook feed, a friend had liked a blog post about awakening and that the body isn't ready for it. And I thought, no, this sounds interesting. So I read it. And in there was a link to a platform where they helped with the first step in seeing that there is no self. It's called Liberation Unleashed. It's a very good platform. And so I read the dialogues. They are public. Everybody can read them. And thought, wow, something is really happening here. Because it was like they were all asked questions that were pointing them to their own experience. So like we think there is a me that thinks. And then they were asked to just have a look whether there is somebody that thinks the thoughts. And of course they couldn't find anybody. Or somebody who like turns the hand. If you keep doing that and just look for what turns the hand, it's quite mind-boggling. And I thought, okay. And then there was always a point, and at that point, the seeker had seen something, and I couldn't understand the dialogue any longer. It was like a Zen poem, very beautiful, but full of riddles for me. But the guide and the seeker seemed to understand each other and totally get each other. And I thought, all right, something is happening there. So I researched the background of the founders and thought, well, that kind of sounds all right. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? On this platform, when you work with a guide, you have to answer every single day. It's a daily dialogue. And I wasn't sure I was going for radiation treatment. And I didn't know whether I would be able to answer every day. As it turned out, the radiation treatment, I didn't feel much from it, but I didn't know that then. And so I thought, I just download the book. They had a little book with dialogues, and I just asked the questions myself. Great. So I downloaded the dialogues, and I think I was mostly reading them in waiting rooms because, before you get treatment, you have to have this checkup and that checkup, and so everything is safe. And I spent an enormous amount in waiting rooms. And so I asked myself these questions, and it was so exciting. I thought, these questions are so good. I never asked myself these questions ever in my life. What is it that walks? Where is the sound? Is it inside, outside? Is there a hearer? Wow. And so I had boiled it down to, okay, this I is something like a virus, a computer virus. Something gets touched, something happens like seeing or hearing or tasting, whatever. And then immediately this virus gets attached that say, I hear, I taste, I am this or that. And I am happy, I'm tired, I'm hungry. And I thought, all right. And then there was a question that said, is there any you in any physical form or shape? And I thought, what a silly question. Of course not. And while I was thinking the sentence, a shift happened. I felt like a physical shift. I felt like being moved to the side. And all of a sudden, there was complete stillness. It felt like hitting a wall at 100 miles an hour or something. A very soft wall, it didn't hurt. And a complete stillstand. And I saw clearly there is no me. And I saw why I always had thought there is one. And it was just right in front of my eyes. I just hadn't looked. And was like, wow. And I did a fist bump and said, yes, I got it. And yeah. And then it was like, I couldn't contend. It felt so vast. I had to go outside. I was sitting on my couch at home at that time. It was a Sunday. So I went outside, and in Hamburg, all people are outside on Sundays. So lots of people. And I saw them in the park, and I thought, how am I ever going to connect to people again, seeing so clearly that they are not? And I thought, okay, I'll keep that for later. And everything was quite psychedelic. The colors were totally intense. And we have a fountain with a huge sculpture there with Neptune and fishes and nettings. And the fishes are, the water's coming out of them. And everything looked super three-dimensional and intense. And then I had to cross the road, and a motorbiker again passed, and he had taken off his muffler, so it was really noisy. And usually I get totally annoyed, but I didn't. There was just the sound, and that was it, and it was gone, and there was just no reaction. And I thought, wow. So, and then I just walked. We have a large river in Hamburg. I walked down there. It's not far away from where I live. And had a long, long walk. And then I came home and told my partner, hey, I don't exist. And the answer was, sure you do. I can see you. And I realized I cannot talk about this to anybody I know. What am I going to do? So I kept that for later too, because of course I didn't know what to do. And so for the first days there was this kind of honeymoon, and then it normalized again. It was really a new normal. I couldn't even remember any longer how it had felt to live with a sense of a me. And that was quite mind-boggling, because, I mean, it wasn't so long ago, or just a few days, and it was not possible to reinstate that somehow, to put it into place again. It was just gone.
That's really interesting, because I think one of the biggest challenges for people, but also important, is the death of the ego.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. And actually, it's not even a death. The ego is just as real as Santa. It's really seeing that Santa doesn't exist.
And I think that is so difficult for most people.
Yes, it is. It is it is so difficult, because we usually try to approach it via thinking. But the thinking won't get us there, because it's working on a plane where the answer doesn't lie. It's like the famous, I think it's a Mullah Nasruddin story, where he loses his keys, and it's dark already, and he searches around the lamp outside on the street, and somebody passes by and say, hey, what you're looking for? And he says, my keys. And the passenger said, well, where did you lose it? And he said, just in front of the door. I said, so why are you looking here? Well, it's bright here. And this is exactly, we're looking in the wrong place because it's brighter, we're more familiar with thoughts. Our actual experience is quite an unknown continent. And this is only the first assumption. There are many more assumptions that will fall away. So in the end, the world as it's known now will no longer be there in the same way. Though everything looks the same, it will be very different. Yes.
Very interesting. So now, do you work with people in helping them then to learn how to, I say kill the ego, but we say just it doesn't really exist, to recognize that it isn't really a thing? Is that
Right.
how you help people?
Yes. Yes, I'm doing that in dialogues, either in written dialogues, or when I travel, I do more written dialogues because my internet is not so reliable. And when I'm at home, I like to do more video dialogues because the non-visual cues help a lot with the guiding. Then I can see much quicker where they might be looking in a place where there is light, but not the answer.
So do you, well, maybe you can just explain, how does this help you? How did it help you in your life? And how does it help your clients to really go through this process?
Yes, it's incredibly helpful. First of all, already when the sense of I am in control, I have to control everything, I have to do everything falls away. That is such a relief to really see that the things are actually happening. Even my speaking is happening, and I don't have to have control of it. I'll still not speak gibberish. And it's such a relief. And another thing that many people notice, many people struggle with self-worth, with the feeling that they're really not enough or somehow bad in some way, or feel guilty a lot for something. And that totally falls away because seeing that there is no self, there is suddenly the sense, there's a very good feeling. It just feels good. And the sense of self-worth just doesn't make any, the question of self-worth just doesn't make any sense any longer. And still there is the feeling of being full, not always running on empty or false.
A huge, huge thing for a lot of people. I know in the work that even I do with people, self-worth, self-love, that is big. And to feel like you, I think maybe what you're saying too is you're no longer searching, feeling like you have to search to figure out where you get that validation that you're worthy, because it's just, you just know, it's just a knowing that we just are, and it's less stress, I think, on people.
Yes, totally, totally. And you know, when you go through all the steps and truly awaken, all suffering ends. There is no suffering. Most interestingly, after I had gone through all fetters, I was diagnosed with uterine cancer. And it was such a different experience. It was very surprising because the surgeon who had done who took the sample said he had looked at it and he was totally sure that it was benign, that there was no cancer. And so when I went for a checkup just to see that everything healed fine, my gynecologist told me that I actually had cancer. And it was like, oh. And it was in March, and in April we usually moved into the caravan. And the only thing that's always hard for me is changing tracks. When something changes, I always take some time. And I had to get my mind off in thoughts. I was already preparing what we needed to take and all this kind of stuff. and that I actually needed to change tracks now. This was a totally different endeavor. And I didn't know what to say. It was like, oh, okay. And then the gynecologist, she was very sweet. And she said, no, of course you could ask why. And then I found my speech back and I said, no, this question doesn't have an answer. And she was so glad she didn't have to make anything up. And, and yes. And then I said, so what do I have to do now? And which hospital do you recommend? Because, of course, I don't know this kind of stuff here in Hamburg. I moved here after retiring, so I'm not connected to physicians at all here. And yes, and so she told me all that, and I had the surgery, and sure, there was pain, but it was all bearable. Oh, the pain perception totally changes. Pain just hurts so much less because all the additional baggage of, oh, this is so bad, and you can make it all up to a big thing, and actually feeling what's there might not be that large. And when I had gone through it, it was like I hadn't suffered a scratch. I was so gracious and so grateful to my guide who had guided me through. He has invented the system, and the system after the first step. And so he took the Buddhist teaching and said, okay, how can you do this today? And he invented it on the go. So at some point we had caught up and we both explored, so where do we go now? It was very exciting. And it's such a blessing. It's such a blessing to no longer suffer no matter what happens.
That would definitely be an amazing thing. I think a lot of people, and we talk about this on my show, we create our own private hell in our thoughts with what we're
Absolutely.
thinking. Yeah. And I do believe there really is something to being able to break free from that and to experience peace no matter what's happening around you, that you're still able to hold on to that inner peace. My children's father committed suicide in February, and then my mom, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in June.
Oh dear.
And we're going through this whole pandemic. And so for me, there have been a lot of struggles, but I found that not going to that place of why, or,
Right.
Not the victim mentality, but just knowing that everything is going to be okay and it's all going to work out and there's nothing to worry about. That's what's helped me to keep my sanity. So I totally
Beautiful.
Totally believe in the fact that, not attaching worry and fears and all of that really does help get you through a lot.
Yes. I'm so sorry that you experienced all that. That's a lot. In the end, the good thing is you don't even need to do it any longer. The thoughts just don't attach themselves any longer. All the worrying and the, why did this happen? What did I do wrong? Maybe this all just doesn't come up any longer. All the self-referencing thoughts stop. It gets pretty quiet. And that's really a blessing. And the other side is that when the thoughts no longer come up so much, the memory gets really bad because it's just always now. It's always it's only now. In the beginning, I always felt I'm caught in the Alcatraz of now. But in the end, it's a space without borders. And everything else just doesn't count. What's in future, what might be in future, we'll see. We'll just do one step that's possible now, and then we'll see how that step turns out and maybe correct course or not. And that's all we can do. And this happens naturally. We already speculated how much longer we might live because we don't have the stress.
Definitely believe that that helps with lifespan, not sweating the small stuff is what we say here.
Right, not sweating the small stuff.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Now, if anyone would like to work with you or to follow you, how could they do that?
They can follow me either on Facebook, Finding Awakening is my Facebook page, or in the Finding Awakening community, that's a Facebook group. And I have a website that's called findingawakening.com.
And I will have all of her links in the show notes. So if you want to go and join her Facebook group or go to her website or want to follow her, you can click directly on the links in the show notes. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here today. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for our audience members?
Thank you for having me, Melissa. It was really beautiful. I would say, if you want to awaken and really get rid of all this worrying and suffering, the important part is to, if you have any old traumas in your past, to have therapy. Because if life feels so hard because of old emotional conflicts, it is not well possible to let go of the assumption that I am in control, because that's what's saving the day right now. Only when life gets easier, then it is possible to look into this assumption and actually let it go.
Yes.
So, and that is where psychotherapy has a really important place. And coaching, that is really important there.
Totally agree with you 100%. I always say on this show, if you don't heal your inner wounding, you will bleed all over people who didn't cut you. So that includes yourself.
Right. That's so true. That's really good. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being here with me. I want to thank you for imparting your wisdom, as we say in German, auf Wiedersehen, right? Or auf Wiederhören.
Oh, thank you. Auf Wiedersehen und auf Wiederhören. Yeah, great.
And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today, too. As always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave me a review from wherever you're listening. If you could leave me some stars on iTunes, that helps others find me, which helps me in my mission to help people heal. Also, if you want to follow me on social media, I go live Mondays at 6:30 Central for a free card reading on Facebook. If you show up for the live, I will also pull a card for you, too. And if you want to work with me, you can go to my website, melissaoatman.com. There you'll see all of the list of services I offer, as well as you can book the service directly from my offerings page. Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. I hope you have a beautiful day from wherever you're listening. I am sending you so much love and light, and I will talk to you soon.